Just a quick update on my version 1.0 tomato plants. They are still alive, remarkably. I have one that is possibly a goner. On the left-hand side, he's just hanging on, but those branches are really limp. The other two look a little stronger. This one I think I properly trimmed up front, therefore it's got a couple of nice looking pods of tomatoes. The other one's trying with a little teeny one here. You can see that. So here's what I've discovered. Here's what I think happened. So, you know, the General Hydroponics schedule says to change out the nutrient solution every week, and that's just too much for me. I'm not going to do that. And I've discovered that for the first month of its transplant, or at least 3 weeks, the plants do just fine with the early growth. There's just no real reason to change anything. That's been my experience with version 1.0 and, that's great, version 2.0 over there. I haven't touched these in a little over 3 weeks, I think. And it's just the early growth solution. Everything seems to be fine. So what I did with version 1.0 was I went straight from the early growth to the early bloom. And you may, if you watch these videos, I had spectacular blooms, like for, you know, almost 2 days. I had 20 flowers come out. It was pretty remarkable. I was like, wow, I'm doing something right. And then I woke up that third day and the plants all look like this guy. I mean, they look pathetic. It's like they were on some big sugar high that they were crashing from, pH spiked. And I was in triage mode I've been in triage mode ever since, trying to keep these things alive. So here's my hypothesis, that whatever is in the early bloom stage, because there's some liquid cool bloom in there, and the bloom component of it, of the 3 basics, is very high. I think I might have just, you know, shocked the system, and the plants didn't really know what to do with it. So that's my current thinking. So therefore, what I did this morning, because it's about time to move version 2.0 plants over to something where they can start to begin to bloom, I'm going to go to the transition mix. And it looked like a good balance in between the early growth and early bloom. Now let's try that for, 2 to 3 weeks. See if I can't get some more height on these plants, some more buds, because they look just like version 1.0. These plants, man, it just turns out so red. I wish it wasn't so red because these lights aren't that red. The buds are fantastic. The stalks, the vines are thick. So I'm going to choose to try to do the transition first and see if that helps. Hopefully it will. And so that's what I have mixed up here, and I'll be transplanting that. The other thing I'm going to do, actually, I'm going to leave one of the plants. I've got 4 tomato plants of this vintage, if you will. I'm going to leave one of the plants completely alone. I'm going to leave the early growth in as long as I can until I start to see some weakness. I'm adding some pH neutral water just to keep the water level up. But I'm going to stretch that thing as far as I can, because if I can, put it in autopilot for, a month or a month and a half, and then once they get over here to the critical phase and I've got to kind of baby it, then I think that will be a sufficient solution. So I've been keeping a pretty accurate log. I've actually got this called my mortuary log. Hopefully that's not the case moving forward, but I printed out these sheets, and I'll try to put a link to it, but just to give some basic stats for me to record. And I wanted to show you, well, here. So I just started a couple of days ago
just showing the pH and ppm. The temp stays pretty consistent, so I haven't been keeping track of that. But then, you know, whatever adjustments I make. And yesterday I did it actually in the morning, at noon, and in the evening. And it's still looking like the pH is going up about, you know, at least 0.2 per day. And there's just going to have to be a regular process to put the pH down in there in order to keep it stabilized. So anyway, that's my current thinking. Hopefully it'll work out. And you know, this one I just have to show you was my strongest producer to date, and it's got some nice tomatoes, but the plant just is suffering. I mean, it just doesn't look like it's going to make it, and I mean, I hope it does, you know. And just like with the lettuce the first time around, this has been a huge learning experience, and I've learned a lot. So I started with indeterminate plants, which I think are going to be harder in this environment. I do have one determinate plant. It's a bison tomato plant, and you can see it just looks different. It's going to look a little more like a bush, I think. So anyway, that's an update. Until next time.